The Stoic Path. Welcome to this exploration of the Stoic Path, a collection of 50 core maxims of self-command, perspective, and resilience drawn from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. As engineers, you routinely navigate complex systems, volatile variables, and structural constraints that test your analytical resolve. This presentation serves as an introduction to a philosophy of resilience, designed to function like a robust internal operating system when your external environment becomes chaotic or unpredictable. By engineering a stable psychological anchor, you can better manage stress, approach technical roadblocks with absolute clarity, and maintain professional objectivity. Stoicism is not about suppressing your emotions, but rather about optimizing your mental response loops to reality's constraints. Over the next several minutes, we will systematically break down these timeless principles to see how they provide a practical blueprint for high-stakes modern engineering environments. Marcus Aurelius. We begin our technical deep dive into Book 1, which focuses on the rigorous mindset of Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor who actively practiced Stoicism while leading an expansive, complex empire through wars, economic trials, and devastating plagues. His personal journal, known today as the Meditations, was never intended for public view, but remains history's ultimate guide to duty, discipline, and absolute self-command. For an engineer, his writings read like a diagnostic manual for a human mind under extreme systemic stress. His life proved that true leadership requires an unshakable internal equilibrium regardless of the surrounding environmental noise. He viewed his cognitive faculties as a laboratory where impressions had to be tested before being accepted as truth. Let us analyze his specific algorithmic rules for managing daily data inputs and maintaining focus. On self-command, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This baseline principle demands that you treat external project anomalies, market volatility, or system failures as independent variables that you cannot directly modify, allowing you to focus purely on your internal response loops. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Your mental processing efficiency dictates your overall operational output, meaning that corrupt or panicked thoughts will inevitably degrade your systemic performance. By actively monitoring your mental runtime environment, you prevent external stressors from introducing critical bugs into your logical decision-making frameworks. When you isolate your cognitive functions from environmental turbulence, your analytical capacity remains completely uncompromised. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When a colleague, client, or system stakeholder disrupts a timeline or acts unprofessionally, reacting with equal volatility only compounds the overall operational failure. You must protect your processing integrity by refusing to replicate bad data inputs. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is perhaps the most famous engineering algorithm in Stoic philosophy, reframing a bottleneck into an optimization opportunity. Every technical constraint, design flaw, or system failure contains a hidden pathway to improve your overall architecture. Instead of treating a roadblock as a terminal stop, you can view it as a live testing ground to iterate, harden, and upgrade your current processes. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In a professional context, this implies shifting your focus away from theoretical debates regarding best practices or idealized conditions and instead executing clean, high-quality work immediately. True competence is demonstrated through functional output, not endless discussions. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This direct parameter eliminates ambiguity, providing an explicit binary boundary for ethical engineering and accurate data reporting. When your baseline operation is rooted strictly in objective truth, you eliminate the cognitive overhead associated with managing misrepresentations. This systematic commitment to honesty protects your professional reputation and ensures your data remains completely verifiable. Daily perspective. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. This framework optimizes your morning initialization sequence, shifting your baseline from obligation to a deep appreciation for your active, conscious state. Starting your day with this calculation clears out ambient psychological clutter. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. In your engineering career, you must optimize your performance based on the actual physical constraints and team compositions currently allocated to your project. Fighting immutable project realities or wishing for different parameters is an inefficient use of limited cognitive energy. True efficiency lies in accepting current baseline conditions and engineering the best possible outcome from that starting point. Look back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too. Historical patterns replicate over time, meaning that your current architectural crisis, organizational shift, or technical roadblock is rarely a unique anomaly in the grander timeline. Understanding this cyclical nature prevents short-term project setbacks from causing systemic psychological burnout. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. This principle isolates your core fulfillment loop from external material resource constraints or fluctuating corporate milestones. When you realize that your internal processing framework is the primary driver of satisfaction, you stop over-optimizing for volatile external rewards. Anchoring your mind in this macro perspective allows you to navigate present-day workplace volatility with absolute tranquility. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The internal environment of your mind must be defended against toxic data inputs that can slowly corrode your operational capacity. If you constantly process cynical, panicked, or unverified inputs, your underlying cognitive architecture will gradually adapt to that negative frequency. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. As technical professionals, it is easy to defer actual living until specific career milestones, product launches, or financial targets are perfectly finalized. This mindset creates an infinite loop of deferment where your active life passes by unexamined and unexecuted. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that time is a non-renewable resource that must be actively managed. Unshakable truth. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Validating data before letting it alter your internal state is a fundamental requirement of cognitive security. When reviewing peer feedback, project critiques, or market volatility, you must decouple subjective interpretations from objective telemetry. Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears. An external event or critical review cannot damage your core psychological integrity unless you explicitly choose to process it as a personal insult. By dropping the emotional payload from incoming critiques, you extract the raw, actionable data required to optimize your technical output. This operational firewall protects your mental bandwidth from being consumed by unhelpful workplace drama or perceived slights. Because your own strength is unequal to the task, do not assume that it is beyond the powers of man. When assessing complex technical challenges or handling major system migrations, look to broader human capabilities to re-baseline what is achievable. If the task is mathematically possible, it can be engineered through discipline and continuous learning. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Allowing a system failure or communication breakdown to trigger an angry emotional response introduces massive instability into your team dynamics. The fallout from a single emotional outburst consistently causes more structural damage than the original root error ever could. Maintaining strict emotional regulation ensures that you remain an asset during high-stress troubleshooting scenarios. Amor fati. Love your fate, which is in fact your life. We conclude our analysis of the Meditations with this definitive metric of reality acceptance. This philosophy demands that you do not merely tolerate unexpected technical anomalies, project cancellations, or systemic constraints, but actively embrace them as the exact medium through which you must execute your craft. When you stop wishing for reality to match your idealized specifications, you free up massive cognitive reserves for actual problem solving. Every unexpected script deviation becomes a design parameter to be integrated into your next architectural evolution. Marcus Aurelius used this exact framework to govern an empire under existential stress without losing his mental stability. By adopting this stance, you transform every real-world constraint into raw fuel for professional mastery. Seneca. We now move into Book 2, which transitions our philosophical analysis to the works of Seneca the Younger. He was a brilliant playwright, imperial advisor, and wealthy statesman who navigated intense political turmoil in ancient Rome. Unlike Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the empire, Seneca had to navigate the highly volatile, unpredictable power dynamics of an unstable court. His practical letters contain unparalleled counsel on conquering daily anxiety, managing your time effectively, and enduring severe adversity. For engineers working within complex corporate hierarchies, his insights provide an invaluable blueprint for maintaining tactical focus amidst organizational chaos. Seneca viewed philosophy as an active form of mental medicine designed to cure anxiety and optimize focus. Let us break down his distinct maxims for mastering fear and fortune. On fear and fortune, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Human minds are highly advanced simulation engines, but we frequently waste compute cycles simulating catastrophic edge cases that never actually manifest in physical reality. Grounding your thoughts in present data eliminates the ambient background anxiety that plagues many high-achieving professionals. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. In your engineering career, the ultimate metric is not the sheer duration of your employment, but the objective quality and impact of your technical contributions. When you stop worrying about career longevity and focus entirely on current execution, your day-to-day performance drastically improves. This shift allows you to prioritize meaningful architectural achievements over simple time-serving. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Navigating a technical career requires an explicit destination vector paired with an understanding of your core values. Without clear, defined professional milestones, every organizational shift, corporate reorganization, or market trend will leave your career drifting aimlessly. Difficulty strengthens the mind, as labor does the body. Just as physical materials require mechanical stress to validate their tensile strength, your analytical mind requires complex technical challenges to develop advanced problem-solving capabilities. A project with zero friction teaches you nothing new about your architectural limitations or personal capabilities. Welcome extreme technical difficulties as the necessary stress testing required to upgrade your engineering competencies. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Constantly obsessing over future promotions, project greenlights, or market shifts pulls your cognitive focus away from the code or architecture you are writing right now. Mastering your attention requires a systematic restriction of focus to the current execution window. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You cannot directly control when a major market opportunity, corporate expansion, or technical breakthrough will present itself within your organization. You do, however, have complete control over the rigorous preparation of your skill sets and technical infrastructure. When you optimize your daily readiness, you ensure that your system can seamlessly scale when external opportunities occur. Time and mastery. He suffers more than is necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. Anticipating a brutal code migration, system audit, or difficult client presentation weeks in advance simply forces you to endure the stress multiple times. Eliminate this anticipatory drag by dealing with anomalies only when they enter your active processing queue. While we wait for life, life passes. Waiting for the perfect corporate environment, the ideal manager, or a complete lack of project debt before you engage fully with your career is a critical error. The ideal baseline state does not exist. Reality is always a messy patchwork of constraints. If you condition your execution on perfect external parameters, you will look back to find your prime creative years have drifted away unutilized. Life is long if you know how to use it. Maximizing your operational lifespan requires a fundamental shift in how you budget your daily time resources. Time allocation is a zero-sum game, and wasting hours on trivial arguments, doom-scrolling, or low-value tasks artificially shortens your productive career. A gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver or doer. When collaborating on cross-functional engineering teams, evaluate peer contributions and intense design critiques by looking at their underlying intent. Recognizing that a colleague's tough review is intended to optimize system performance prevents you from taking the critique personally. This mindset fosters a high-trust engineering culture where team members can provide raw feedback. It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. Developing an unshakable mind requires a systematic separation of your internal processing from external material dependencies. While an organization can reallocate your budget, alter your project scope, or change your physical workspace, they can never force your mind into a state of panic. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. Modern engineering environments often become bloated with overly complex software tools, unnecessary dependencies, and redundant administrative processes. Periodically stripping down your operational infrastructure allows you to discover the leanest, most efficient baseline required for core delivery. This minimalist discipline makes your workflow highly adaptable and resilient to sudden resource constraints. Unshakable purpose. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Your professional growth curve is directly accelerated or decelerated by the human networks you choose to integrate with. Surround yourself with principal engineers, rigorous researchers, and disciplined specialists who actively challenge your assumptions and force you to write cleaner, more efficient code. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. A technical professional who stays in a stagnant, low-stress position for a decade never discovers their true engineering ceiling. Without encountering systemic failures and high-stakes deadlines, you cannot validate the true robustness of your technical capabilities. Embrace high-pressure projects as the essential field testing required to prove your competence. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca frequently returns to this temporal audit, reminding us that time leakage is the primary driver of unfulfilled professional potential. Treat your daily time blocks with the same optimization rigor that you apply to hardware resource allocation. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. Context switching across too many disparate projects or trying to master 5 different programming frameworks simultaneously ensures you achieve true competence in none of them. Isolate your primary technical objective, close down extraneous processing channels, and drive that single system to absolute completion. Minimizing your work-in-progress limits prevents systemic cognitive fragmentation. He who is brave is free. True freedom in an engineering career is not the absence of constraints, but the internal fortitude to face technical failures, tight deadlines, and corporate volatility without losing your analytical composure. When you conquer fear, you decouple your internal state from external dependency. They lose the day in expectation of the night. This maxim identifies a severe processing error where professionals spend their current working hours obsessing over the weekend or retirement. Deferring your focus to a future rest state ruins your capacity for present-moment mastery and technical execution. You must find your focus and professional engagement within the active troubleshooting process itself. Focus and authenticity. Let us say what we feel and feel what we say. We conclude our module on Seneca with this rule for radical clarity and communication authenticity. Eliminate corporate jargon, passive-aggressive formatting, and political doublespeak from your engineering documentation, code reviews, and team synchronization meetings. Clear, direct communication reduces overall system noise, accelerates your team's velocity, and ensures that technical requirements are perfectly understood across all engineering disciplines. When your words exactly match your internal technical evaluation, you prevent misunderstandings that could lead to systemic design flaws. This absolute clarity forms the bedrock of professional integrity and technical trust within an organization. Epictetus. We now enter Book 3, turning our analytical attention to the piercing insights of Epictetus. His background stands in stark contrast to our previous subjects. He was born a slave, but eventually secured his freedom to establish one of ancient Rome's most sought-after philosophical schools. His direct wisdom, captured by his students in the Enchiridion, focuses entirely on distinguishing what is in our control from what is not. For engineers, Epictetus reads like a master instructor in systems boundary definition. He strips away all philosophical abstractions to focus completely on your direct agency and core behavioral outputs. He argues that your internal will is the only system you have root access to, while everything else is third-party data. Let us unpack his core principles. Sovereignty of will. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. Epictetus anchors his entire philosophical architecture on this binary division. A broken server, a failed deployment, or a lost client is merely an objective physical state. Your panic or frustration is an unforced processing error you chose to run on top of that state. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Stop writing lengthy internal manifestos regarding architectural best practices or complaining about legacy codebase issues. Instead, write clean, highly optimized, fully documented code that demonstrates those exact principles in real-time execution. True technical leadership is demonstrated through functional product delivery and observable discipline, not through theoretical grandstanding or empty discussions. There is only one way to happiness. Cease worrying about things beyond our control. The macroeconomic climate, your competitor's unexpected product launch, or executive-level corporate reorganizations are external systems running entirely outside your operational boundary. Wasting cognitive compute cycles on these uncontrollable variables drains the energy required for your core technical tasks. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When an external system shift occurs, an uncalibrated engineer wastes time assigning blame or complaining about altered requirements. A Stoic engineer treats the new constraints as a fresh optimization prompt, instantly pivoting to calculate the most efficient path forward given the new parameters. This rapid adaptability ensures that you remain highly valuable across any environment. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Accelerating your learning curve requires a systematic elimination of ego and a willingness to endure short-term social friction. If you are terrified of asking basic questions during an architectural review or trying a new framework where you lack expertise, your growth will permanently plateau. No man is free who is not master of himself. If your daily focus can be completely derailed by a single critical Slack message, a negative performance review, or an unexpected change in project specs, you lack internal system control. True professional freedom is the ability to maintain absolute tactical execution regardless of surrounding organizational noise. You must secure root access to your own behavioral outputs. Mastering the mind. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. True technical mastery requires a permanent commitment to intellectual humility. The moment you decide you are the definitive expert on an architecture, programming language, or engineering methodology, your mind closes to fresh optimizations, modern research, and alternative paradigms. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This provides a crisp, debugging sequence for personal execution. Define your precise engineering identity with absolute clarity, whether that is becoming a principal hardware designer or a world-class systems architect. Once that target architecture is set, align your daily calendar blocks and code commits to execute that exact vision without compromise. Keep death and exile daily before your eyes. Maintaining an accurate engineering perspective requires regular calibrations against the ultimate constraints of human existence. This is not morbid cynicism, but rather a realistic boundary condition that instantly contextualizes daily project stressors, minor corporate anxieties, and workplace friction. He is wise who rejoices for those things he has and does not grieve for those he has not. It is incredibly easy to spend your week complaining about legacy database constraints, ancient hardware stacks, or limited testing budgets. A master engineer accepts the current physical limitations of the allocated infrastructure and crafts brilliant, optimized work inside those exact guardrails, turning constraints into a showcase of pure skill. Freedom is won by disregarding things beyond our control. If your emotional baseline is tightly coupled to corporate praise, fluctuating stock options, or project greenlights, you have effectively handed root access of your mind to external entities. True autonomy requires a systematic detachment from external validation loops. A ship should not ride on a single anchor, nor life on a single hope. In engineering design, we build multi-zone redundancies to prevent sudden, catastrophic system downtime. Apply this exact architectural principle to your professional life by diversifying your skill sets, research domains, and core sources of personal fulfillment. When your psychological identity is anchored across multiple structural pillars, a single setback cannot collapse your entire framework. Control your passions lest they take vengeance on you. Allowing unfiltered impulses, frustrations, or defensiveness to dictate your engineering decisions introduces critical vulnerabilities into your professional output. Emotional volatility inevitably leads to rushed calculations, compromised code, and fractured team dynamics that carry long-term technical debt. Any person who makes you angry becomes your master. If a frustrating code review, an arrogant colleague, or a demanding stakeholder can break your composure, they have successfully hijacked your mental operating system. Maintaining absolute, data-driven objectivity under pressure ensures that you retain complete command of the engineering environment. By treating interpersonal friction purely as system noise to be filtered, you preserve your bandwidth for top-tier analytical execution. Conclusion: do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. We conclude our presentation of the Stoic Path by returning to our core overarching framework, Amor Fati. This is the definitive design principle for navigating a modern, high-velocity engineering career across any technical discipline. When you stop burning cognitive compute cycles wishing reality matched your original theoretical models, you can fully engage with the actual variables at play. Treat these 50 core maxims not as abstract moral philosophy, but as your daily psychological armor and diagnostic tools. By engineering a resilient, unshakable internal mindset, you can navigate intense system failures, evolving project requirements, and corporate transitions with complete cognitive clarity. Maintain control over your internal variables, filter out external noise, and continue optimizing the systems within your command.